Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Michael, or Kiratze online. Hopefully, you guys are having a positively fantastic day so far, and I'm here with another episode of You Should Play, the first episode of 2019, my first video of 2019. I apologize for not making too many videos in December. I was quite a bit busy with family stuff and holiday stuff and all that good stuff. And hopefully, you guys had a fantastic holiday and a fantastic New Year. New Year's Eve, and yeah, I'm really excited for 2019. I hope 2019 is freaking fantastic for you. But anyways, let's just jump right into it. This is Atom RPG. This is by Atom Team, and I believe this is their first game. This was a Kickstarted game, and I did not know about the Kickstarter until after the fact. But this game is currently $15 on Steam, or in my case, as I'm Canadian, it's $17. But it is an extremely fun game and 100% worth the price. I'll just spoiler that right off the bat. And this footage you're seeing is from a broadcast I did a couple of days ago, and I have so far put about 7 hours into it, and I believe it boasts at least around 25 to 30 minimum hours in the game. I've had some viewers say that it can even go further than that, depending on how you play. This is pretty much a good homage to the CRPGs of the old days, I guess is what you can call it. So, for example, you can probably see some similarities between this game and something like either Wasteland 1 and 2, even some similarities to like some fantasy-based ones like Baldur's Gate. And obviously, the big one is that it is very reminiscent of something like Fallout 1 or 2, which, if for any of those who have played those, it is not like, Fallout 3, for example. It is a top-down isometric CRPG. And yeah, this game is really, really good for its price. And even if it was more, I would be actually pretty darn happy with my purchase. I actually expected, when I saw trailers for this game and saw some footage for this game, I expected it to be maybe around $30. But the fact that it is around that $15 mark is 100% worth it. Because it's a really, really good CRPG. They hit all the marks for me personally. Obviously, this is the type of game that is not really for everyone, especially considering the fact it is not exactly a high budget title. So it is a little bit rough around the edges in some aspects, but overall, for its for its price, it goes above and beyond, I think, in what it accomplishes. So Atom RPG is pretty straightforward in what it is. It's a post-apocalyptic survival CRPG. You are part of an organization called Atom, and you are pretty much just sort of sent off into the wasteland for a main goal. But over the course of, like most of these games, you go off on side quests, you meet new NPCs, you level up, and the character creation is actually really, really in-depth. I love it. I'm a huge fan of that, as well as leveling up and skills and all that good stuff. So they actually adopted, I think, something similar to the GURPS system, which is a tabletop RPG system, I believe. And they have a bunch of different stats, and they have your basics, but they also have things like endurance and attention, which can affect things like dialogue choices, for example. Dialogue is a very, very important thing in this game, and it's actually not as easy as I found it in other games. One thing I'll say is this game is actually quite difficult, and I'm playing on the normal difficulty. There's 2 other difficulties above my difficulty, as well as a permadeath mode. It is really, really difficult, and I found myself dying multiple times. It's very easy to stumble into a fight you can't win, or at least have very, very tough time with. There is obviously some RNG involved, since it is a turn-based game where you do have sort of the percentage system chance of hit depending on your skills. And I've had it where I rolled a melee character, and I've come across people with AKs that have 3 bursted me and essentially one-shotted me and shot my head off. And I have a pretty decent health pool where I'm at. So the game is, I wouldn't say unforgiving, but it is definitely challenging, and it definitely forces you to... it definitely makes you learn quickly that this is the wasteland. This is a post-apocalyptic world where, you're not the hero. You are just someone trying to make your way through the wasteland and complete objectives for your organization and do what you can to survive. There is other mechanics in the game that I love, such as the crafting system, as well as there is just a nice survival element to it where it's not overbearing. One issue I have with some survival games is, especially with like the hunger mechanic or thirst mechanic, sometimes it's a little too overbearing where you are constantly starved for resources, and it's just putting it's more of an annoyance than anything. But the game does it really well in that it just only has the hunger in this game. There's no thirst mechanic, and it simplifies it a lot, and it makes it pretty easy to handle. Not to mention the game, for people like myself who are big loot whores, you're gonna really love this game. There's tons of stuff to loot, and pretty much everything can be used for something, whether it be just selling for rubles or just using for crafting purposes, or just using it for your own benefit. The crafting system I haven't dived into too much. I don't know if they handle it by doing it with recipes, but I do know that there is a discover mechanic where you are able to just put random items into the crafting menu and hopefully get a recipe out of it, which stays with you permanently, which is pretty cool. So I do love that. I will definitely have to try and experiment with some more with that, but I've barely scratched the surface of this game in my 7 hours, and I think this is going to be at least a 30 to 35 hour playthrough for me. This game definitely has a lot to offer, and I love the fact that it does let you go pretty much wherever you want. The map is quite large, and there is the Wasteland 2 type of sort of over map system, which I think you might see here right away, where you have sort of your instanced areas, as well as an overarching map area where you're traveling long distances. And in those travels, you do have chances to get random encounters, with them being from anything to just your regular run-of-the-mill bandits are attacking you or monsters are attacking you. You can try and escape, or you can attack them, to more unique encounters where you talk to NPCs and you have like almost mini side quests in a way. And I've come across multiple of those, and I would say the majority of them have felt very unique, and I really love how they have a decent variety of random encounters that can happen to you. For example, one of them, I just was walking around and I came across some, not really a caravan, but I came across a group of survivors, and I talked to them, and it was this whole intricate story of, they crashed their Jeep into a swamp, and they think a monster might have possessed them, and they were trying to figure out who they could trust within their group, and you had to actually talk to all of them and go through the dialogue and figure out who actually maybe got infected by this parasite. And it was really fun and really cool. Ultimately, I just killed all of them because from the dialogue I got the fact that they all actually got infected by the parasite and we're all going crazy. So I killed all of them. I got their loot. But that was just one of the really cool things. Another one is actually the most recent one that I had before I ended the stream. Was I came across a random encounter where I saw a survivor and his dog getting attacked by a group of bandits. And the encounter started with the area being in battle mode, and I saw that the guy was pretty darn close to being dead, and also the dog was getting beat on by like 3 different bandits, and I was just like sprinting and using my max movement value. Here you can see the overarching map, by the way. I was sprinting using my max value to get to the survivor. There, right before I got there, the survivor died. He got killed by the bandits, but the dog was super close to dying. I got there just in time, and the dog was at near death state. The game doesn't give you exact health values. The game gives you, you're either injured, you're close to death, you're healthy, etc., etc. It's only in certain other menus you can see specific health values. But I got there just as the dog was in the nearly dead state, and I saved the dog, and I actually was able to bring it over to my side, and it actually joined my party, which was super random. I didn't expect that. It was something I hoped, obviously, but I didn't expect them to actually just give me a new party member, that being a dog, which has its own stats. It has its own skill tree. I forgot to mention before, on top of, your static abilities like stealth, like pickpocketing, gambling, speech, crafting. There's a ton of different skills you can put points into. There is a whole skill tree on top of that where you are able to allocate points for even more passive abilities, which is super awesome. A lot of layers to your skill, or a lot of layers to your character building in this game. So it does let you play something, however you want it, whether you want to be using someone who uses guns mainly or uses bladed weapons, or even just using your fists. There is unarmed attacks. There's also different versions of your attacks. You can go into aimed mode if you want to target like their head or their feet, for example. So there are a lot of mechanics that if you've played games like Wasteland 2, you'll be quite familiar with, which is really, really awesome because those games are freaking fantastic. And this game definitely follows the line of, why try and fix what's not broken? But they package it very well, and it still feels like a unique game in and of itself. In terms of the story, I haven't done much of the main story at all. I'm actually sort of not really roadblocked, but I've come to a point where I'm just not leveled enough. I'm just not strong enough to take on certain enemies. So I'm out exploring the wasteland. I'm finding new side quests, getting more members for my party. You don't control your party members, which is pretty interesting. You don't control them in the sense that they have their own turn. But you can see here I'm actually giving my companion orders. So it does let you sort of just control your own character, and it does sort of help for people who might get a little bit overwhelmed with having too many people in their party or something like that. The AI is fairly straightforward. It's obviously not the most smart, but it does offer you enough room where you are able to give orders for your NPCs where it's enough to feel like you're controlling them. It's just that you can't choose like what type of attacks they're doing or things of that nature. But it's still really fun. The combat itself is pretty straightforward. Nothing much there. I mean, you're not going to get crazy intense animations or anything like that, but it's a lot of fun. I really love the mechanics, and it definitely feels like I'm not getting super XCOM'd a lot of the time. It does feel like, because I put a lot of stats in my melee weapons, I am hitting quite frequently with my melee hits, if not all the time. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to say, because it's a really, really fun experience. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the mid to late game, because again, even though I've played 7 hours, I've barely scratched the surface of this game. I'll say one thing about the dialogue. The dialogue is quite good. This game, I believe the developers are based in Russia or Latvia. This was a Kickstarter game, also, I should mention. But I think that's where they were based, and there have been like very, very minor grammar or spelling issues, so that's it's overall the dialogue is really, really good. I mean, it's not spectacular, but it's perfectly fine. Like it's great. It's not voice acted, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But it is sort of more of an indie title, so it's sort of to be expected. I personally don't mind because I love reading that stuff to my chat, but other people might not like it as much. But usually it's more of a streamer thing where it's not voice acted because they have to say it themselves. There is a ton of different varieties in where the dialogue can go. And I'll say the dialogue is actually, even with a decently high speechcraft skill, I do find myself failing a lot of the stuff. The skills go up to 200. You can see here all the different stats and skills. The skills actually go up to 200, I was told by a viewer. So it's pretty insane on how high they can go. So I'm really looking forward to the late game stuff, as well as it does. I really love the dialogue because for the extra dialogue choices, depending on where you're at, context matters. So I sometimes get the option of using either my strength as an extra dialogue thing to get special access to a dialogue tree, or I might have to use my speechcraft. But depending on what the context is, it actually feels like that matters in how successful I am. So I do feel like certain things are weighted differently depending on what the context of the conversation is. So it does force you. It does reward you, I guess I should say, when you pay attention to the dialogue and you get a feel for where the conversation goes. But yeah, that's what I have to say about Atom RPG. Again, like I said, so far nothing but good things to say about it. I would say that if this was a $60 price game, I would say it would be a little bit tough to recommend it, but I think I would still be recommending it for people who really do enjoy these types of games, because this is a fantastic CRPG from what I've been seeing. It's not exactly super fast paced either, so I should bear that in mind. I have been told that you get fast travel unlocked later on in the game, but it is a little bit on the slower side. It isn't super quick, but I think that's again to be expected with these types of games as well. But yeah, definitely check out their Steam store page with more info, as well as you can look at their Kickstarter if you want to see what kind of stretch goals they made. I believe they have something like 300 different NPCs in the game because of what they unlocked. They have 30 plus weapons, 100 plus locations, like base of operations was one, but I haven't unlocked that yet. But either way, super awesome game. Definitely check it out. And yeah, that's going to do for me, guys. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.